It'd be like if I go to A's Farm, that's athleticsfarm.com, and all the articles on there and everything on there are just, they're like half written. And anytime everything's just he only does like half the article and it's just gone. He only shows up for half the article. I'm not going to A's Farm. Bill, I'm not going to A's Farm if you're only pitching 5 innings. I need you to do the I need you to do the job. Is there something wrong with that?
No, fine. Fortunately, you don't have to worry about that with A's Farm, so that's good. But but yeah, I mean, we were used to watching pitchers pitch, like real pitchers pitch full games. And I mean, when I was a kid, there were guys like Mickey Lolich and Wilbur Wood who were throwing 300 innings a season. Now, I mean, it's rare that you even get guys getting 200 innings a season. So it's a whole different game. And yeah, we've definitely lost the appeal of that really marquee starting pitcher that is really going to dominate the game. It's just not the same anymore.
But I'm going to take it a step further because already people are going, oh, look at the get off my lawn Clint Eastwood guys. I'm going to take it a step further. What has happened is it's basically like instead of going to Home Depot, these teams go to Arms Depot and they find a bunch of random, no name, like this Robert Suarez guy that you're going to hear a lot about tonight on the broadcast, was a big deal in Game 2. He's 31 years old. He's playing for the Padres, Venezuela to Mexico to Japan, and signed with the Padres in December. 31-year-old rookie. It's like a cute story, but I need to sell stars. Baseball, the biggest moments of our game now are a bunch of guys. Well, he was DFA'd, and then he was picked up here, and this guy was this random guy in the trade. You got a bunch of no-name guys factoring in the biggest moments of our playoff games. That's not Steph Curry, LeBron James. That's not Tom Brady up against Aaron Rodgers. This is nobody DFA'd picked up versus this guy traded. Star power sells in our country, and it worries me that we've got a game that's 3+ hours long. We can go pitch clock or not in the postseason, but you've got a bunch of rando guys who are the biggest factors in these games.
Yeah, and quite honestly, our A's are kind of the prime example of that for the last couple decades. They really haven't hung on to stars or sold the team based on stars. They've kind of looked for those under the radar guys who are a little more low profile and quite honestly a little cheaper too. And again, that's just the way the game has gone. I mean, people like you and I can complain about it and remember the old days when we were kids watching the true stars of the game. But this is definitely the direction it's moved in, and I don't see it changing. And unless you're the Yankees or somebody, and you're going to, pay $40 million a year to hang on to Aaron Judge for the rest of his career or something. It's just going to be a bit more of a technocratic game, really, than it was when we were kids.
Yeah, and that's really, we're going to talk about this with Eno Saris a little bit later, where we were following it last night on Twitter, where they're talking about the really advanced teams they've brought in. And I've gone over this, where you can go to baseball job boards, right, and the jobs that are open for front offices have nothing to do with baseball. It's all about, what is your data-driven background? And you now got a bunch of PhDs in there, especially like the Dodgers, that they're looking at people's anatomy, right? How you throw when the ball comes out of your hand and it comes down. How does your ball cross home plate? And the guy you're facing, how he swings, what's his swing like, right? Is it more upswing, launch swing? Is he more of a flat through the zone? So they're now matching, forget just righty lefty matchups. They're matching up how your game works, your anatomy, and how you control the baseball versus how the hitter's swing plane is. That's kind of where this is the next generation. So we'll see if that intrigues people. We'll see. But let's get to I love these lists. It's the all prospect list. This is like the all team, right? The all league team. Where do you want to start? You want to go infield, outfield, pitchers? Where do you want to go?
I'd say let's start with the infield because I think that's where things look most promising for the A's in the near future. You're referring to the article I have on A's Farm right now, which looks at the 2022 postseason all prospect team for the A's. I really wanted to look at the potential impact players for the A's at each position in the near future. And I think the infield is where things look the best. Look, just to go around quickly.
Let's just be clear. You did the entire infield. You just didn't stop like at second base.
No.
You did the entire job.
We rounded the bases. We completely rounded the bases.
You did the job. Just checking. You don't know these days.
So let's start. First of all, we got Shea Langoliers as the catcher of the future. We got Tyler Soderstrom coming at first base. We got Zach Geloff, who will probably be here at second base by the end of next season. Okay. We got last year's first-round draft pick, Max Muncy, a couple of years away at shortstop. And at third base, we've got either Kevin Smith coming back or Brett Harris, who had a tremendous season in the minor leagues this year. We can talk about any of those guys at great length if you want, but I think that's the future infield you're looking at. A Soderstrom at first, Zach Geloff at second, Max Muncy and Nick Allen are the big shortstops of the future, and then you've either got Kevin Smith or Brett Harris at third.
Okay, so I've interviewed all of these kids, right? Cody, we've interviewed everyone. I mean, we had Max Muncy right out of high school.
Yeah, we had Soderstrom out of high school. We've talked to Langoliers already.
We talked to Geloff.
We saw Geloff play in San Jose.
Okay, the only guy I don't know much about, so he'd be the most intriguing to me because we were told Geloff's the future at third. Now it's second. No problem with that. He's a bat. I don't care where he plays as long as he hits. Who is Brett Harris and why should I be excited by him?
I'll tell you all about Brett Harris second, but I did want to mention Zach Geloff. Definitely, he's been playing second base every game in the Arizona Fall League, and he just hit 2 home runs in the game last night. That's after hitting 5 home runs in 9 games at Las Vegas in September.
He drives. You know what I like about him, too, is just seeing the video, and we only get to see highlights. I like his ability to stay inside the ball and drive it to right center. That is a great sign. He lets the ball get deep, got power to right center. Obviously, he can pull it, but he's just not pull happy because we know you come up here and you're pull happy and that's all you can do. You're going to see so many sliders and you're going to strike out. I like the fact that we see him go the other way with the baseball.
I think that's one thing about Geloff is he's a professional hitter. I mean, he's got a good approach. He really knows how to handle the bat, and that's what you like to see in a young player because a lot of times they're just a lot more raw as hitters at that point. But he seems to know what he's doing at the plate. That's why I think by late next year, we will probably see Geloff in the A's infield. But Brett Harris, who you asked me about, is intriguing because he was the 7th-round draft pick last year, hasn't gotten as much attention. But this season, he had the 3rd best batting average, the 3rd best on-base percentage, and the 3rd best OPS among all A's minor leaguers with at least 300 at-bats this year. And again, this was just his first season, a full season in pro ball after being drafted last year. And, he's good in the field at third base. Again, another professional hitter, has a good approach at the plate, hit really well at Double-A Midland, should have a shot at Vegas Triple-A this year. So if he gets off to a good start in Triple-A, he could be, in the A's infield at the hot corner by the end of next season. He's also a little older. He's 24, so he's had a lot of college experience. He's been around. He knows how to play the game, and Bobby Crosby at Midland really raves about his approach. But also, if for any reason Brett Harris doesn't work out, Kevin Smith, we know what happened with him last year, but he really turned it on late in the season at AAA Vegas. He ended up hitting 11 home runs in 25 games in September. So there are a couple options there. Either Brett Harris or Kevin Smith could be at the hot corner for the A's next year.
At the end of the 5th, I always do a minor league report, and I read about, certain things guys did at every level. And it was like, is this real? It was like he was hitting a home run every game and going 3 for 4. And he's a great guy. Kevin Smith, I remember interviewing him at spring training. Then we had him on the show again before he was sent down. I mean, really the type of player, good guy that you really root for, and very athletic, could play shortstop. So do you think Kevin Smith will be given the opportunity to be the third baseman with Brett Harris then is the option, and maybe really quick the option coming up from Las Vegas.
That's kind of how I see it playing out. I think they're going to give Kevin Smith every chance to win a roster spot again this spring. I think you'll probably end up seeing Kevin Smith and Vimael Machin on the roster to start the season. So you'll have a lefty and a righty third base option there. Then it just kind of depends on how their performance goes. You'll probably have Brett Harris at third base in Vegas, see how his performance goes. So you could have three potential options at the hot corner as the season unfolds next year anyway.
All right, so definitely you see Brett Harris as a big leaguer.
Yeah, again, I think he's a smart player. He kind of one of these guys that kind of does everything right, has a lot of confidence in the field, knows what he's doing. Again, not a high draft pick, but a 7th round pick. So that's not bad. And like I say, every manager he's played for talks about, what a great guy he is on the field, how he knows what he's doing, knows how to play the game. And again, he's a little more advanced, had a lot of years in college ball. He's 24 now. I think he's a legitimate major league prospect. At the worst, he could potentially be, a utility infielder anyway. He also has played some second base, but I think he's a potential starter at third base, and if not, he could be a useful utility player in the infield as well.
Well, you start looking at certain guys and you're like, well, we can't wait to see these guys. And 2 of them are on your list. And I know he's young. I mean, Max Muncy's 20, but you start moving him up through the system. I mean, what do you start to think for him? I mean, does he start in Double-A, or is he back in, where do you think he starts next year?
Yeah, just so you know, he was 19 for most of the season. He just turned 20 a couple months ago. So, he's still pretty fresh out of high school. So there's still time with him. I think he'll probably, this is just my guess, he'll probably start the season at Lansing. If he hits well there. Oh, look who's joined us. It's one of my felines.
Nice.
She wants to get in on the act. I think Max Muncy will probably start the season at Lansing. If he gets off to a good start there, I think they'll very quickly move him up to Double-A Midland. But I think, there's no rush on Muncy. I think they want to give Nick Allen every chance at shortstop. Obviously, we know how good Nick Allen is in the field. If he's able to develop with the bat just a little more, I mean, honestly, Allen can hit like 240. That's right around league average at this point in time, So with his defense, he could be valuable there. So I think Muncy's probably still a couple years away with Nick Allen in that spot. But, if he hits, they'll move him up. And if he's ready for the majors, he'll be here sooner or later. And probably not too much later anyway.
I know you're not going to be shocked by this, but I don't buy all the time what's being sold, because I'm looking around the rest of Major League Baseball. I'm seeing 21, 22 all over the game. So that's why I say, hey, listen, I'm not looking at birth dates anymore. I don't care about your birth certificate. Can you play or not? Can you help us? And if this kid, whether he goes to Lansing, Midland, if he goes and he hits and he continues to hit and he can field, okay, all right. But by the time he's 21, 22, if he can play, I'm not afraid. Let's go. Being young is not a bad thing.
Well, you'll be happy to know that Tyler Soderstrom will be turning 21 next month. So he'll be starting out next season as an aged veteran at the age of 21. And, I think it's entirely possible, if he gets off to a good start and has some time in AAA where he's doing well this year, that you could see him up with the A's late next season, sort of around the time that Shea Langoliers came up maybe. And he would just be a 21-year-old making his major league debut. If he debuts at any point before the end of next season, he will be 21. So he could get a shot at a young age. But as I've mentioned to you before, I think he's most likely to be getting that shot at first base, not as a catcher. The A's have plenty of catching options, again, particularly with Langoliers ready to go there. But I think there's a good chance you could see a 21-year-old Tyler Soderstrom playing some first base for the A's before the end of next season anyway.
I think you'll agree with this. When he turns 21, the ID will say 21, but that bat's not 21.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, he's definitely got an advanced bat for his age, especially the power. I mean, that's the great thing to see with him, is the power is real. He led all A's minor leaguers in home runs. He had 29 home runs this year. And again, that was just as a 20-year-old. He hit way more home runs than anyone else in the A's system. And he wasn't playing in like crazy hitters parks, for the most part or anything. So his power is real. The one thing about him, though, is, he's a left-handed hitter, and he has had some trouble hitting left-handed pitching. I think he hit about 200 against left-handers this year, and the power doesn't really show up against left-handed pitchers for him, but he really mashes those right-handed pitchers. And again, at such a young age, to be able to, show that power is great to see.
Seth Brown said it this year, and I couldn't agree with him more when we started asking him, hey, you're starting to hear in the second half to hit lefties better. His answer was simple. They're allowing me to hit lefties. You don't learn to hit lefties at this level unless you get the opportunity. And if there's failures, that's okay. We're now in a point of we're still in the land of discovery. Let them play every day. Let them learn. At some point, when you got an advanced bat, you'll figure that computer in your head. It's not the talent. It's the computer in his head. We'll start to figure it out, make the adjustments. I am not worried about Soderstrom. If his bat is as advanced as we think, he'll be here very soon, and he'll be in this lineup and hopefully for a long, long time. Let's go to the outfield. Some interesting names, some interesting athleticism. Where do you want to start first?
Well, let's talk about a couple of the younger players I've got in the outfield mix as future impact players for the A's, and that's Denzel Clark and Lawrence Butler. They're both playing in the Arizona Fall League right now. They're both 22 years old. Butler is more of a right fielder type, and he's really hitting well in the Arizona Fall League. I think in his first 6 games, he's got 2 home runs, 3 doubles. He's hitting over 300. He had a breakthrough season in the minors in 2021 where he really put himself on the map. And, both these guys, Clark and Butler, have a combination of power and speed. And I think Lawrence Butler in a couple of years could be the A's right fielder. And Denzel Clark, he was just drafted last year in the 4th round by the A's. He had a tremendous season at Lansing and Stockton this year. And I think he had maybe the 4th best OPS in the A's minor league system in his first full season of pro ball. He really has both power and speed. He stole 30 bases this last season. He hits home runs, he hits doubles, and he plays center field. Reminds me a little bit of a guy, I'm sure you'll remember the name anyway, Andre Dawson, a big guy who can play center field, has power, but also has speed. Again, they're both playing in the AFL for the A's right now, and that's usually where you like to put your high-profile prospects. And I think both those guys, they're probably the 2 most promising outfield prospects in the A's system right now. Again, they're both a little ways away because neither of them has played above high A yet. They're both 22, but they're both playing in the AFL, getting experience there. And the A's really don't have many high-level outfield prospects at the top of the system. So I think Lawrence Butler and Denzel Clark are 2 of the most exciting outfield prospects to keep your eye on.
Yeah, I'm not sure we need a guy like Andre Dawson.
Maybe we'll give that a pass.
You can have your Tim Raines and Gary Carter and all those old Expos. Of course, the Hall of Famer won his MVP with the Chicago Cubs. I bet, you know what? Something that you definitely want to see is athleticism. We want to see more athleticism. Athleticism leads to better defense, and we know, we talk so much about home runs and getting on base that one of the hallmarks of Bob Melvin teams that were good in Oakland was how good the defense was.
Yeah, and as we know, the defense wasn't that great this past season for the A's. Hopefully Nick Allen being there all season can help out a bit, and hopefully other moves will improve things a bit. But yeah, I think there's some promising defensive guys in the system. I think Shea Langoliers is going to be a good defensive catcher. Denzel Clark has the potential to be a good defensive center fielder. Zach Geloff can play a good second base. I think Brett Harris and Kevin Smith both have the potential to be solid third basemen as well in the field. So I think the defense will be improving. It's just when you've got such a young team like the A's had this year, there's always going to be a lot of miscues with kids that young on the team.
When I see Max at 25, I say, ready to rock. You're 25.
Yeah, that's on my list. I included Max Schumann as a potential left fielder. He's the only guy on my all prospect team who's not on MLB Pipeline's top 30 in terms of the position players on the list. But again, there aren't many top level outfield prospects in the A's system, so I put him in there because he's an intriguing guy. He's a bit older. He's 25, but he led the A's system in on-base percentage last year. He had an on-base percentage over 400, and over the course of the last 2 seasons, he's stolen a total of, I think, 76 bases. So the guy gets on base, he steals bases, and he scores runs. And he's played all over the field. He's played every position besides pitcher and catcher. So, he's a guy with kind of a thin outfield crop at the top of the A system right now, who could potentially at some point next year get a shot to be in the outfield mix anyway. I'd like to see him get a shot. He's he's played his butt off every team he's been on. Bobby Crosby, loved having him at Midland this year. He's a real gamer who's really improved himself after being drafted in the 20th round a few years ago. And I'd love to see him get a shot in the A's outfield or as a versatile sort of a Ben Zobrist utility type of player.
All right, let's go to the 2 pitchers you have. We interviewed Criswell at the University of Michigan when he was. It was great. He was at his draft party with his head coach. We had him on. It was a lot of fun. And Hogan Harris. Tell us about these 2 pitchers.
So Jeff Criswell was the A's second-round draft pick a couple years ago. They took him right after Tyler Soderstrom in 2020. And Criswell always had great stuff at Michigan, throws hard. Command was just an issue with him. He wasn't always sure where the ball was going. He'd walk a lot of guys. But this year he made big improvements in that. And he had the second most strikeouts in the A's minor league system. He struck out an average a little over 9 batters per 9 innings. He threw almost 120 innings, which is a lot for minor league pitchers these days. So he was healthy. He was solid. He had improved command, and he can strike guys out. He's got the stuff. So I think, in terms of right-handed pitchers, Jeff Criswell is the next one to keep an eye on. He should be in the Vegas rotation next season. And then the other guy, left-hander Hogan Harris, is really intriguing. The A's drafted him a few years ago in the 3rd round, but, he was hurt. He's had so many injuries. I don't think he'd even pitched 70 innings since he'd been drafted by the A's a few years ago. But this year he was healthy. He was on the mound. He made it all the way from high A to double A to triple A Vegas. And Hogan struck an average of almost 13 guys per 9 innings. This guy definitely has the stuff. He's a big, strong left-hander who throws hard, and he's finally healthy. And I think, next season, the A's rotation, I think, is pretty well set for next year if everybody's healthy. You've got Cole Irvin, Paul Blackburn, James Caprillion, J.P. Sears, and Ken Waldichuk. But as we know, there's always injuries. Something always happens. Most teams don't just need 5 starting pitchers. They usually end up using 10 over the course of the season.
13.
Yeah. That's what happens now. So you've got your starting 5. That's great. But you need another half dozen down at AAA, too. And I think Jeff Criswell and Hogan Harris are maybe the 2 guys who, certainly if they get off to good starts in Vegas, you'll see plugged in when an opening arises. But then you've also got guys, probably at Vegas this year like Adam Aller and Adrian Martinez and Zach Logue and maybe Jared Koenig and guys like that as well. But I think Criswell and Harris are the 2 that haven't made their major debuts yet that could be potential impact pitchers in the future when the openings arise for the A's.
Quickly, Ginn, Hoglund, where do you see them?
Ginn is pitching in the AFL right now. I think he's pitching today, actually. So he's healthy again, which is good. A guy you didn't mention, Ryan Cusick, who the A's also acquired last year, and kind of like Ginn had a lot of injury issues. He's had a couple starts in the AFL, and he's pitched really well in his 2 starts in the AFL. So I think Cusick's really just a little ahead of Ginn right now. But they're both healthy. They're both pitching in the Arizona Fall League. They're both pitching well. So that's great to see. Hoglund, we're probably going to have to wait to see him in action, until spring training. He came back, pitched like a game or 2 for Stockton, and then had a little hiccup and was sidelined again. But we're just going to have to wait and see where he's at health-wise once he gets on the mound next spring. But it's good to see Cusick and Ginn both healthy again, both pitching well in the AFL. So if those guys remain healthy, they'll put themselves on the map and in the mix before long too.
Great stuff. Keep your phone on. We're going to call you soon because we want to know everything these young guys are doing in the Arizona Fall League.
Great. Absolutely. Happy to talk to you anytime, Townie.
All right, buddy. Great work as always.
Thank you.